A very, very interesting story we touched on right around a month ago, that being the rumor of maybe a couple teams out there from the Overwatch League trying to sell their spot and their teams as well. This rumor actually surfaced around Cloud9 and the London Spitfire. Nicholas first talked about it here on this channel, as a former Houston Outlaws general manager did acknowledge the rumor. He did not accept or deny the rumor, so it's just pure speculation about some teams potentially trying to sell their spots and their rosters as well. Now, when acknowledging this rumor, he did say it would simply make sense, as I'm sure you guys can probably attest to. We have long talked about the struggles of the Overwatch League, the curiosity of where it will go in the future, and why many teams out there might be wanting to get out as the troubles do continue. We've already seen people like Courage and Nadeshot kind of make jokes and jabs at someone like Hector Rodriguez over at NRG for their Overwatch League investments and how those might be turning out. So especially when a Houston Outlaws former GM does admit that even when the Outlaws themselves were trying to sell their roster, finding buyers was very, very difficult. It does make you think that, you know, Cloud9 could have potentially, just speculation, have been trying to sell their roster as well and maybe couldn't find a buyer.
Any thoughts on the rumor of C9 wanting out of the league? I don't think I don't think it's crazy. Like, I don't know. I don't really have thoughts on it. I feel like multiple teams probably regret investing, or at this current moment regret investing, so it's not that shocking. The problem is that, like, now we're at this point where I feel like it's hard to find buyers. Like, it took Outlaws so long to get bought, right? Like, Outlaws is one of, like, the most popular brandable, whatever you want to say, teams in the league. And if you can't sell that, like, easily, then, like, how easily can other teams sell? Like, I don't know. Especially, like, C9 or, like, any of the European teams. Like, how much demand is there? In an online league, it's kind of...
And why I say maybe couldn't find a buyer is because now, just around a month later, we've actually found out that Cloud9 will not be selling their spot. They'll not be giving up any ownership at all. We'll be actually appointing a separate organization to help them run logistical control of that same Overwatch League roster. That's going to be Guinevere. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that. A majority shareholder also in Excel, well known, I would say, mostly for their League of Legends roster, but a separate esports organization now helping out and stepping in for Cloud9, at least in some form or fashion, to help them operate their London Spitfire Overwatch League roster, which happens to be all the way in Korea, and what seems to be Cloud9 struggling to actually maintain, you know, all of these functions behind the scenes correlating to that roster. They have now pulled in the help of a separate organization to help them out a little bit. As according to Kevin Hitt from the Esports Observer, starting immediately, Guinevere will be given logistical control of the commercial and marketing aspects of the organization, as well as facilitating expected live homestand events in 2021. Also further stating that a subsidiary of North America esports organization Cloud9, that being Kings Row Holdings, will remain intact as the owners of the team. Spitfire players and staff will continue to be based in Korea, with Cloud9 leadership still making personnel decisions. So no ownership as of right now, no new names, just a separate organization, and also the company being Guinevere, who has a majority shareholder in that esports organization. That being Excel, alongside Cloud9, will in some form or fashion give a helping hand to helping operate, of course, the London Spitfire over in Korea, especially when it comes time for putting on homestand events, you know, to kind of correlate this other things out there. This does make a lot of sense. We've actually seen this in the past where multiple esports organizations try and give helping hands when it comes time for operating an Overwatch League roster. I do believe the LA Gladiators and the Sentinels, for a time, it kind of ended on a rougher note, but they too were also helping each other out when it comes time for operating that roster as well. It is very interesting though, because just a month ago, we see these rumors, only potential rumors, of Cloud9 trying to sell their roster and their spot. So did that fall through? And the next best thing was maybe, okay, we still need a helping hand when it comes time for logistics, for marketing, for operating in a country we're not maybe used to operating in and knowing all the niche stuff around there. Can we get a helping hand elsewhere? Is that the next best thing to also not give up any ownership for? You would have to say, yeah, outside looking in, that's what it looks like. It looks like a team potentially trying to sell. They couldn't find a buyer. Next best step was have a helping hand out there who they gave no ownership to. And it seems like a pretty fair partnership and a pretty solid move going forward. And also, this does not pertain, lastly, to a team like Cloud9, but we do see several teams out there operating inside the Call of Duty League and the Overwatch League. By the way, preseason, when Call of Duty actually first announced their roster, their schedule for events, they had to change it because it was so strenuous. There were a few Overwatch and Call of Duty teams who actually have, or organizations actually having teams in both leagues, who complained and said, you know, it's kind of strenuous to have to put on events, home homestand events for both our Call of Duty team and our Overwatch team. It's a lot of things to coordinate, a lot of things to put together. Luckily enough for some of those owners, at least, Call of Duty League not only went online like all the other leagues as well, but they also reduced their schedule because of some of those owners facing that kind of strain of having to operate so many tedious things to put on events for multiple rosters. You can imagine how stressful that might be. So it does make sense for Cloud9 and other teams to really pull in bigger helping hands to understand how different markets operate and also have help putting on their homestand events, which we do hope will resume come next year, 2021, as the article also does state. So did Cloud9 fail to sell their Overwatch League roster? We might never know. I'm sure they probably would not admit that. It is interesting, though, to have other former GMs out there, especially when it pertains to the Houston Outlaws, which were a more brand friendly, especially when it comes time for who previously operated them, that being Optic Gaming. They did a very good job of branching out and making some very well recognized, especially teams when it comes to Overwatch. I would say the Outlaws were certainly one of them. Even they struggled to sell that roster. If you guys did not know, it was actually Immortals Gaming Club who bought out Optic Gaming, and with that, a lot of their rosters. So they actually owned both the LA Valiant and the Houston Outlaws. They had to sell the Houston Outlaws, and that is what Matt Rodriguez, the former GM of the Outlaws, was pertaining to. They were one of the more brand-friendly, recognizable teams, and even they struggled to sell their roster. So is it possible Cloud9 struggled in selling London Spitfire? That fell through, and they got a helping hand? Outside looking in, it looks like a possibility, but we do not know that for sure. Either way, we'll see where OWL actually goes, because for the future, this is going to be very interesting. I'm very curious where this goes. We can only hope 2021 brings back the homestand events, brings back the regular schedule. We have certainly seen struggles here and there when it comes time for OWL. We will see what they do next, and if other teams out there make moves like Cloud9 to get a helping hand and putting on events and other things behind the scenes. What do you guys think? Until next time, though, drink your water, drink your coffee. I'll see you guys back here sometime soon.